Hi everyone! In this video, I'm going to show you how to graph a quadratic function or a quadratic equation by hand. And in this problem, we are going to graph y equals negative 2x squared minus 8x minus 3. Now, I know this is a quadratic function because there is an x squared in the equation. And then when you graph a quadratic function, which we're about to do, it's going to graph something called a parabola. So keep that in mind. We are going to graph what's called a parabola. And that is the graph of a quadratic function. Now, in this one, you see that it's y equals. Sometimes you may see it written as f of x equals. Those two things just mean the same exact thing. When we graph a quadratic function by hand, the first thing we have to find is called the Axis of Symmetry. That has an equation along with it you need to make sure that you know. And that equation is x equals negative b over 2 times a. Well, what is a, b, and c, which we sometimes use? Well, a is the coefficient in front of x squared, so in this case a is negative 2. B is the coefficient of x, which in our case is negative 8. And c, which, what does c do? C is actually the y-intercept, and in this problem, it's negative 3. So now plugging in the values we know, the first thing we do is we take the opposite sign of the b value. Since our b value is negative 8, the opposite sign of negative 8 is going to be positive 8. All divided by 2 times a, which is negative 2. Doing some simplifying, we see we have 8 over negative 4, which is equal to negative 2. So now to write an entire axis of symmetry, we would write it as x equals negative 2. Now you may be wondering, what is the axis of symmetry? An axis of symmetry is a vertical line that splits a parabola right down the middle. And because it's a vertical line, we always have to make sure to write x equals in front of the number because that's how you write the equation of a vertical line. Now, if I were to draw in the axis of symmetry as a dashed line, here is the line, x equals negative 2. The next thing we find is the vertex of the parabola. The vertex is either going to be the highest point of the parabola if the parabola opens down, or the vertex will be the lowest point of the parabola if the parabola opens up. So to find the vertex, what we do is we take the x value we just found in the axis of symmetry and we plug it into our equation or our function. And what we do is we plug it in for the x value. So whenever I see an x value, I'm going to replace the x value with the x value we just found. And there it is. Once you calculate that, it comes out to equal the number 5. What we want to do is we always want to write our vertex as an ordered pair because the vertex is a point. And the vertex here would be negative 2, 5. Because negative 2 is our x value, and then by plugging in negative 2 into our equation, we just figured out what y is equal to, or the y coordinate. The vertex should always fall on your axis of symmetry, because remember that axis of symmetry splits the parabola exactly in half. So here my vertex is at the point negative 2, 5, which would be right here. Now to finish graphing the parabola, we need to move on to step 3, which is determine other points that would be on the graph. Now what I like to do is I like to make a table similar to this. And what I do then is I put the vertex, the point negative 2, 5, right in the middle. And I like to pick 2 points on the right side and then 2 points on the left side of the vertex. So that would mean x values of negative 1 and 0 on the right side and negative 3 and negative 4 on the left side. Now, the y value that corresponds with these, well, we do exactly what we did up here to find the vertex. You're going to take this x value and plug it into the equation whenever you see an x. So I'll go ahead and write one of them out for you, and then you can do the rest on your own. So to find this y value, you would use the original equation, and whenever we see an x, we would plug in negative 4. Once you do that, you would calculate it to be the point -3. If I plugged in -3 into our equation, I would get the y value of 3. Let's go ahead and graph those 2 points. -4 and -3 is the ordered pair right here for this point, and -3, +3 would be right here. Here's where something interesting happens. If I were to plug in -1 into my original equation, I get 3. And if I were to plug in 0, I get -3. I want you to notice something. Look at this symmetry that we see with a parabola, and that will always happen because a parabola is symmetric on both sides of the axis of symmetry. So if we plot those final points of -1, 3 and 0, -3, you can see that there are symmetrical points on the other side of that axis of symmetry. Let's go ahead and finish connecting these points to make a U-shaped graph, which is called a parabola. And this parabola happens to open down, and so the vertex is at the very top, which would make the vertex a maximum. I hope you found this video useful in graphing a quadratic function by hand. If you did, please make sure to click subscribe so that you're notified as weekly math videos are posted. Thank you for watching.